Hey folks, Vern here. Welcome back to Fixing My Faith. Well, today we're diving into a story out of Europe that you may not have heard of yet, but it's a big one. The Czech Republic, they've officially warned Jehovah's Witnesses that they could be deregistered as a religious organization. Yep, the government says we've had enough. So let's start talking about why. Well, here's an article I'm just going to show you here. So this is the Balkan Insight. You'll notice here right at the top, Balkan Insight. This is the headlines. It's dated April 7th, right down here, 2025. So the Czech Interior Ministry, they sent a letter to Jehovah's Witnesses warning them they may lose their official registration as a religious group. So what does that mean? That's a major step. Why? Because registration gives them, Jehovah's Witnesses, access to legal privileges like property ownership, tax benefits, public recognition. Losing that, that's a big deal. When they go door to door and this all goes through the headlines in the courts, that's a huge deal to their religion. Well, here's what the government says. They say the group's teachings may violate civil rights. Specifically, they mention endangering health, especially through the refusal of blood transfusions. And they also bring up psychological harm caused by shunning and isolation. And there's concern about children's rights being trampled in the name of doctrine. So now, this just isn't about beliefs. The Czech government is looking at the real world harm that results from JW policies. They say this isn't an attack on faith, but a protection of basic rights. That's how they're looking at it, the governments. So let me read this quote from the article. It says there, the ministry's letter described concerns about religious practices conflicting with democratic principles, human dignity, and the protection of minors. That's some pretty strong language. When you look at the other countries, this kind of government pushback, it's not new. We've seen this all the way through the Norway. They cut subsidies to the Jehovah's Witnesses over in Norway over their shunning policies. Jehovah's Witnesses even deleted videos and changed part of their religion through the whole Norway court case. People can wear beards now. It's kind of Norwegian. Women can wear slacks. Men don't have to wear ties. All happened because of Norway. And then they got up and said, we're going to loosen up the shunning. You can now say hi to disfellowship people at the Kingdom Hall. And maybe invite them to the memorial or something like that. So this was all because of government pushback. You remember Tony Morris says, we're never going to change. What happened? The governing body took a vote. Well, they brought in two new members because they had to get a greater vote in the governing body, and they voted, kick Tony Morris out. He's screwing us up. We have to make changes. So they know they have to make changes. And government pushback, it's not new, it's helping. So where else is this happening? Belgium is investigating them for extremism. And Australia, well, they exposed massive child abuse cover-ups through their Royal Commission. So Czechia stepping in fits the pattern. Governments are no longer staying silent. So the witnesses responded, and they called the Czechs' letter inaccurate and discriminatory. They say it misrepresents their beliefs and practices. And that's the usual line. But public opinion is shifting. And frankly, so are the legal standards. If the Czech Republics follow through and deregistrate the Jehovah's Witnesses, it would send shockwaves across Europe. It's not a ban on belief, it's a stand against harmful religious practices, hiding behind legal status. And as someone who spent 30 years in this group, I can tell you there's real harm. Emotional, mental, and even physical. So what do you think? Is this persecution, or is it finally accountability? Let me know in the comments. And if you've lived through this kind of religious control, you're not alone. Make sure to subscribe for more updates from around the world on Jehovah's Witness policies and how governments are responding. And we also have a Discord channel, a community. If you're coming out of the religion and you want someone to talk to, there's even therapists, XJW therapists on there, and you can chat. So the Discord link is in the descriptions of all of my videos, and we welcome you onto our Discord channel. So make sure to subscribe for more updates, and remember, I'm Vern, and this is Fixing My Faith. Keep living your day with love. Now, if you have the time and you want to stick around, I'm going to read that article, that Czech article. It's a long article. It's probably 10 minutes. And stick around. And there's the receipts for what I just said. So we'll see you in a bit. Okay, so here we are. We have the article open. It's reporting democracy, Balkan insights. And the headlines here, April 7th, 2025, as Czech state comes knocking on the door of Jehovah's Witnesses with a deregistration threat. And this is the picture in the background is Jehovah's Witnesses attending a mass baptism ceremony in the Slasky Stadium in Chorzow, South Poland, Saturday, 5th of August, 2006. So it's an older picture, but there's a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses it shows in the Czech Republic. Now, the Czech authorities are mulling whether to crack down on the local branch of Jehovah's Witnesses, whose warning of religious persecution is downplayed by its critics as martyrdom posturing. And they got that right. You see, Jehovah's Witnesses can only play that game for so long, folks. Now, it goes on to say in a cease and desist order dated from September 2024 and seen by Vern, the Czech cultural ministry, called on the Jehovah's Witnesses to halt any activity in violation of the law. And the purpose of this notice is not to interfere with the internal matters of the religious society, read the letter signed by the head of the ministry's Department of Churches and Religious Society, Peter Stimiuk. He's given the Czech branch of the U.S.-founded Christian evangelical movement. Isn't that funny, eh? They call them an evangelical movement. And that's the last thing Jehovah's Witnesses want to be linked to. But here they are. So it says, they gave this to the U.S.-founded Christian evangelical movement 3 months to get its affairs in order over two of the most controversial practices, or else face deregistration. But over half a year on, the fate of the Czech Religious Association of Jehovah's Witnesses remains undecided. The Ministry of Culture is currently assessing the situation, and no administrative proceedings for deregistration have been initiated so far, a spokesman for the ministry said in a statement. And at this stage, it's not possible to anticipate the ministry's further steps, she continues, adding that it was still reviewing both the complaints made by former members of the community, numbering in thousands, according to previous official statements, and the arguments sent by supporters of the religious sect. You notice how these newspaper articles are calling them JWs a sect, a religious sect. It's like a cult. Now it goes on to say the Jehovah's Witness is officially registered in the Czech Republic from 1993, but present in Czechoslovakia since the early 20th century, was quick to deny any allegations of illegal activities, and held up the specter of religious discrimination, persecution, violation of religious freedom. This is what they do, just to get you offshoot of all the little kids that die because of medical treatments involving blood, or young children that are baptized. Jesus wasn't baptized, by the way, until he was 30. But Jehovah's Witnesses are baptizing 7-year-olds. And if they don't live up, let's say they turn into a teenager. You know how that is. You get to your teens, 14, 13, 14, 15, and they slip up. You're out. You're disfellowshipped. You're announced. No one's talking to you. It's social suicide. So this is what's being challenged, folks. The Jehovah's Witness official register, they've been there for a while. There's no legal or doctrinal reason for canceling the registration of Jehovah's Witnesses. Head of the Public Relations Czech branch insisted. He said such a step would be discriminatory. This is the Jehovah's Witnesses, you see. They're saying that. Now, the last census puts the number of Czechs to be about 13,000, though the JWs claim that it's twice as many members and sympathizers in the country. So I think maybe they have 13, 14. I never looked. We can check later, I guess, and see how many there is. But that's what they figure. But there's lots of people that attend the memorial. They almost count them as in, and they could be just interested people, relatives, friends, and that's how they double their numbers. Now, deregistration of a religious association, which would be a first in Czechia, does not mean a ban. It does not mean a ban on practicing the religion, just like in Norway. Czechia, I guess is how you say that. So for all of you guys that get me for my English, it's not good. The best of time. Czechia. My good wife just corrected me. Okay. So, but the loss of additional rights given to the officially recognized churches, including the legal status and the possession of bank accounts, the ability to perform marriages or to teach in its own school. So same as kind of Norway. They're not recognized with the churches. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't want to be recognized with the churches anyways. That's been a stickler from day one. They're not a church, they're a kingdom hall. And in the phone books here in Canada, they get registered separately. When all the other churches are in a column that says churches, not Jehovah's Witnesses. They're on their own little separate thing called Kingdom Hall. So, they don't get recognized as a church, which should be good news to them, but it isn't. You see, they lose all the church benefits, all the charity benefits. Like in Norway, there was money that they were paid. So who knows what Czechia does. Now, it would also mean the loss of all owned real estate. Now, that's interesting. Who would get that? All the kingdom halls, other property. It's estimated to be worth $78 million, which under the Czech law would have to be liquidated and redistributed to, get this, redistributed to other registered churches. So, the Mormons maybe could take it on. Catholic Church, turn them into soup kitchens. That's what maybe they'd do. Who knows? Now, a much bigger blow than losing tens of millions of dollars is the public stigma that the state views the witnesses negatively, making believers especially vulnerable to hate speech and hate crimes. Jared Lopes says. He's an international spokesperson for Jehovah's Witnesses. So that's what they would say. But you see, they say these things, but why not just fix your problems? You only got 2 problems, really. Quit shunning and quit this blood card stuff. People losing their life because they can't use medical treatments involving blood. That's a sad shame. Now, it goes on to say in the article, our peaceful worship practices, this is the JWs talking, are robustly protected by the Czech Constitution as well as the country's international human rights obligation, he argues. JWs argue this. This is, I guess, sisters going to a convention in Melbourne, Australia. Okay, now we get on Holy Blood. That's the title here, Holy Blood. The bulk of the Czech culture ministry cease and desist order pertains to two of the Jehovah's Witnesses' most infamous practices and beliefs, which have also come under scrutiny in several other European countries over the years. The first one is preventing minors from receiving medical care appropriate to their health needs. You know, why? You know, we've been asking Jehovah's Witnesses this. I've been asking it on this channel for a long time. And I've done so many videos that show that they're reading the scriptures wrong. They're reading the scriptures wrong. There might be a scripture that says to abstain from blood. But you see, in the law, the Jewish law, laws are meant to be broken when it involves saving life. They have a name for that in the Jewish language. And it's like Jesus says, when your kid or your kid or your lamb falls in the well, he told the scribes and Pharisees, "What are you going to do on a Sabbath? What are you going to do? You're going to save them." I think the scribes and Pharisees were condemning them for eating on the Sabbath or plucking grain or something. They were always after Jesus, but they're reading it wrong. But regardless, the countries are not going to allow that any longer. A religious group suing doctors. We read so many articles about doctors getting sued. They wanted to lock one doctor up in jail, the Jehovah's Witnesses. So anyways, this is a good one that they're targeting, and the more countries that go after Jehovah's Witnesses for this, the better the people will be. They're reading the scriptures wrong anyways. Now, so for preventing minors from receiving medical care appropriate to their health needs is a reference to Jehovah's Witness refusal to accept blood transfusions, including for their children, based on the belief that blood represents life and the Bible commands the faithful not to consume blood. The Jews who are under all those old commands that they're talking about, they take blood transfusions. Only Jehovah's Witnesses. It's only a cult. You see, it's a method of controlling people, and the governments are on to them. That's the thing. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses seek high-quality medical treatments and gladly cooperate with medical professionals to find safe and effective alternatives to blood transfusion, the JW spokesman says. And according to the JW spokesman, it's not only God's law that's on their side, but also the law of the land. And there are precedences. Several landmarks ruled by European Court of Human Rights upheld adult patients' right to refuse medical treatment based on their religious beliefs. Last September, the ECR ruled against Spain in the case of Jehovah's Witnesses given a blood transfusion against her will, saying the woman had not been able to exercise her autonomy to observe the important teachings of her religion. You see, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the backstory on this is the people want to live, and there's many people that I've read so many articles here. The one that sticks in my mind is the one woman watched her baby die, and then a few months later she had to come in. She had a blood disorder, and she needed a blood transfusion. And the hospital said, "What are you going to do?" And she didn't want to die. She said, "Give me a blood transfusion." She reneged on her faith, watched her baby die. But then when it came down to her life, she didn't want to die. The hospital was so upset, so taken back, they transferred her to another hospital. She did live, but it got published. And this is the case that I was a Jehovah's Witness for 30 years. We were coerced into these blood cards. No one wanted to die. I thought it was bullshit the whole time. So it's about time that the countries are going against it. This has to be a conscientious matter. And for children, you can't take a child's life. My own children have left the organization. They want nothing to do with it. My one child. Imagine him giving up, or me as a parent, forcing him to give his life up if there was a medical treatment involving blood. He had to die. He'd lose out. He turned 18, didn't want to be a witness. No, he's in his 30s, pushing 40. It's not a witness. Would have lost all that life. You see, so this is wrong in so many ways. It's coercion of self-suicide. It's so serious, folks. There's so much blood guilt on the organization for this. Now, according to the JWs, they figure God's on their side. It's God's law. You see, they're not reading about Jesus. Jesus taught how to break laws if it involves feeding yourself, for instance. They'd glean wheat and stuff out of the fields on the Sabbath. So they broke laws when it comes to living, life over death. So they've got that wrong. Even if the refusal to accept transfusions might lead to a fatal outcome, the imposition of medical treatment without the consent of mentally competent adult patient would interfere with a person's physical integrity, the court ruled, given credence to the Jehovah's Witness condemnation of what they routinely described as medical paternalism. And when it comes to children and minors, the responsibility of making medical decisions lies with the parents, not with the organization, the JWs, this Lopes insists. Now, in cases where the doctor considers a blood transfusion to be necessary to treat the child, parents will ask the doctor to consult with other doctors in experiencing medical care without the blood. So they go on to talk about this. In an open letter, the Czech authorities have over a dozen European scholars express support for witnesses, arguing that, among other things, there is not a single court decision in the Czech Republic on the question of blood. So this is going to go back and forth. It shouldn't, folks. This should be straight cut. This is coercion. And I hope some Czech government people are watching my video. And if you watch other videos, it's coercion. I spent 30 years in that cult. And we were coerced every year to sign a blood card. I didn't want it. And I know a lot of people don't want that. Now, 4 years earlier, the Czech Constitutional Court ruled that parents could lose parent rights if they refused potentially life-saving blood transfusion treatment for their children. And the decision followed a case where the parents of a 7-year-old boy with cancer had refused to let doctors from BRNO University Hospital give him blood. Now, the next part of this article is how to shun friends. For Jal, this shows rather than the Jehovah's Witness leaders, for Jal, Jehovah's Witnesses leaders, it's ordinary members who become the victims of the doctrine and could be found legally liable for the group's teaching, along with other accusations of using psychological coercion to create dependency and concealing certain parts of their teaching. The Czech authorities' second major sticking point relates to the denomination's encouragement to shun and sever ties with former members, something they argue restricts the freedom to change one's religion or to have no religious affiliation at all. And in a statement to Vern, the JW spokesman Lopes downplays the extent of the practice, and that's what they're doing lately. They're lying in court, in fact. And while admitting that Jehovah's Witnesses believe the Bible directs the adherents should limit contact with a person who is removed from the congregation or requests to be disassociated, he insists that the precise extent of the limit contact depends on the personal circumstances of each individual and their conscience. And that's a lie, folks. That's a complete lie. I can show you in the Elders book, and we have so many times, where it says if you have continued association with disfellowship people, you will be in a judicial meeting. It's very clear. You're going to get disfellowshipped yourself. So I don't know how they keep coming out and lying, but they do. And if you're a Jehovah's Witness, a PMO, this should slap you right across the face. It does me every time I read this stuff. How the Lopes, this spokesman for Jehovah's Witness, obviously high up, can get up and lie about this stuff. And they've been lying in court. So either they're going to change their religion on this and make it personal. You see, either that's on the way, or they're just lying. They're a lying religion. So if this is the case, that means that my daughter can call me, email me, have discussions. It means that if you're disfellowshipped, you can associate with your family. It's up to your conscience. But that's not the case. We all know that. So therefore, this is a lie. Okay, well, let's carry on. In 2024, the Jehovah's Witnesses changed and softened its doctrine towards former members with harsher shunning practices now. At least on paper, only applying to apostates. So if you're an apostate, I'm an apostate because I speak out. So no one's going to call me. That's just the way it is. So, yeah. Former members who actively go against their former community and pose a threat to their faith congregants or converts to other religions. So that's what we are. Now, the exclusionary practice of Jehovah's Witnesses are perfectly lawful and protected by freedom of religion, the JW guy says, echoing the claims made in an open letter from European academics who wrote last January that it's all okay. Now, in Norway of 2022, Jehovah's Witnesses there faced a loss of state subsidies, deregistration as an official church, with arguments also linked to the separation of former members from their friends and families. But a court of appeals overturned the previous ruling just last month. And the activists, the Czech Culture Ministry regards as illegal, are all features of Jehovah's Witness teachings and lifestyle that have been examined by courts of law throughout the world and regarded as lawful, wrote scholar Massimo Intervene. And that's one of the, he's the apologist that works for Jehovah's Witnesses. Now in 2022, the ECHR also ordered Russia to overturn its previous ban on Jehovah's Witnesses activity. So, this is what they're using, stuff like that. And here's the next one, and influence people. Now, the Jehovah's Witnesses had problems with being registered as a church in the Czech Republic from the very start, stresses Jal. Jal must be the guy that wrote this. Reminding that the church lied and cheated about several of their doctrines, including on blood transfusions, to get a stamp of approval from the authorities back in the early 1990s. Did you guys know that? Well, it doesn't, for me now to know that these guys just get up in court and tell lies. Articles, the PID department of Jehovah's Witnesses lie and say that shunning is a matter of conscience, which we all know it's not. To know that they lied about their blood thing. Well, let's read. A few years ago, Jal says he started looking for former Jehovah's Witnesses and explaining to them that they have a right to make a formal complaint to the Culture Ministry about their treatment at the hands of the sect. And for his work in investigating the alleged wrongdoings and potentially illegal activity of Jehovah's Witnesses and other sects in the Czech Republic, the 35-year-old says he found himself at odds with part of the Czech academic establishment promoting acceptance of so-called new religious movements. And citing the open letter of academics and overall lobbying efforts in support of the religious group, Jal says these academics are all linked to the Turin-based censor organization of Massimo Intervene. So there's your guy. If you don't know a lot about him, just look at him in Wikipedia. We have. He was the president or something of the Vampire Association. Not that that's a bad thing, like vampires. If you're into vampires, it's okay. But here, Jehovah's Witnesses, we know they're not into vampires. And if you want to talk about blood, the blood doctrine in vampires, something just isn't working there for me. But yet you can go on to Jehovah's Witnesses, I have it highlighted here, Massimo Intervene, plug it in, and he comes up on Jehovah's Witness website. He gives a speech. He is an apologist. He works for them. So, and he's powerful. He's out of Italy. He's done some work right next or to the Vatican. He's a Roman Catholic. So that's the higher authority close for Jehovah's Witnesses, this Roman Catholic, Massimo. He's a lawyer, and he's an interesting character. So he fights for Scientology as well. So if you're Jehovah's Witness, you're right in the same boat of Scientology. Now, hinting at conflicts of interest, he claims that for decades this relatively small group of experts looking into so-called new religious movements has been targeted, influenced, and even funded by the cults they were studying and writing about. Massimo. So it's quite an interesting article. I don't know if I want to read any more of it. This is the memorial of Jesus. They're showing just the other day we had this, a few days ago. Losing my religion. Peter Osprel knows one or two things about Jehovah's Witness shunning practices. He was born in a communist Czechoslovakia, and Osprel, whose mother was and still is a devout member, was raised and brought up among Jehovah's Witnesses. And he says, for as long as I can remember, I have the memory of these secret gatherings in people's flats. Never really liked all those congregation and activities, this fake, artificial singing. But always thought that there wasn't anything else, he tells Vern over the phone. Opsel, now in his 50s and working in Luxembourg for the Court of Justice of the European Union, started having doubts early on. He says skeptically, listening to their apocalyptic prophecies and proclamations about the impending end of the world. And he also devoured history books, theology theses, and went back to the original holy texts to make out right from wrong. And after a few years, after the Velvet Revolution, once the Jehovah's Witnesses have moved from the shadows of illegality to a full recognized church in the new Czech Republic, Opsel confronted the group's elders with his doubts and findings, but did not feel heard. They were completely blind, he says. I went through several communities, and they tried to bring me back to reason. But I quickly understood that there was no way I could stay. So for Opsel, who went on to study the law of the Eastern Czech city of the Olomouc before moving to Luxembourg in the early 2000s, the departure from Jehovah's Witness life was not as painful as it might have been for others. And of course, he says, I was a bit sad of being shunned by people, of some members later on not even greeting me in the streets. But I already had friends outside the community, which isn't the case for many witnesses, he tells Vern. He is still in contact with his mother, but relations have evidently been strained by their divergent social and theological paths. He says, I feel a bit sorry for her, as she also has to live with the stigma of me leaving the community. And he confides, I would love to shake her up, but I don't think that's really an option at her age. And she also told him she would never read the book, Flight from the Tower, that he wrote about his experience with the Jehovah's Witness sect. I don't know what that is. This is visitors attend a special Congress of Jehovah's Witnesses at the Lexengrund Stadium in Zurich, Switzerland, July 20th, 2024. Okay, so the next article in this whole string of articles, like I said before, there's a string here. We're just about at the bottom. This one is Knock Knock. Both Joel and Opsrel tell Vern of what they see as the disingenuous, dishonest tactics of Jehovah's Witnesses or their supporters towards both their members and the society at large to justify their controversial practices, their door-to-door preaching being the least problematic, although the most well-known. What they're basically saying is that every major religion started as a cult and that cults are simply religions in their childhood. That's what Massimo and all these guys are saying. Puberty or adolescence phase, a phase they need to go through in order to become a full-fledged religion, Joel analyzes. And a second line of argument is that most of their practices, including shunning ex-members, are also present in other cults, and therefore that coming only at Jehovah's Witnesses would be discriminatory, he says. And he adds that supporters of Jehovah's Witnesses argue rather ominously that any crackdown or restrictive measures in the community would end up radicalizing them. I don't know if I said that right. Other experts have also warned that if deregistered, the Jehovah's Witnesses are likely to start acting like martyrs and attract more followers. They start working underground. Orfsel, the former member, concedes that some criticism against Jehovah's Witnesses is sometimes incorrect or exaggerated. Nevertheless, it's a dangerous sect, he says. They manipulate, they meddle in people's lives, both physically and psychologically, with strong vibes from George Orwell's cult novel, 1984. He says they should be prevented from having that much influence on people. And taking the example of the blood transfusion prohibition, Orpsel argues that this is merely an artificially created dogma to be different and puts themselves in a position of martyrs suffering in the name of God. I think he nailed it. And turning the Jehovah's Witnesses' own line of argument on its head, this is a paradigm of a sect, and unless they change these stupid rules, they'll never be able to develop into a real religion. So that's what professionals are saying about Jehovah's Witnesses. Let me know what you think about what they're doing and what's happening all over the world. Like this is not new, what we're hearing here. This is not new. This is the same thing that Norway went through, Australia went through this, and New Zealand. We hear this in many, many court cases, how the victims are all traumatized over the shunning and many different things. And we don't get to hear from all those that have died because of refusing blood transfusions. They make martyrs out of the little children and they put them on the pictures of magazines. I think that's sad. What do you think? Is this persecution or is it finally accountability, what's happening in the Czech Republic, all over the world with Jehovah's Witnesses? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you've ever been affected by a high control religion, know this, you're not alone. Every time you show kindness, you're healing. And when you help someone at the food bank, take your dog for a walk, or treat your spouse with gentleness, that's love in action. So no matter what you've been through, keep living your life with love. I'm Vern. This is Fixing My Faith. We'll see you guys on the next video. Bye for now.